back with another week of Touchdown, coming at you from the Golden Harp in Vienna, Austria. As always, I'm your host, Joel Turpin. With me, my co-hosts, David Asselin, Philly Chris Burdett, Katie Eichhorn. Let's get started off with something we're going to call the biggest eye-openers from the weekend. We had a crazy weekend of NFL action. Seemed like every other game had some sort of either new record or just something very significant taking place. And I've asked my co-hosts to come up with their favorite eye-opener from the weekend. We'll start it off with Dave.
I've got Tom Brady, quarterback of the New England Patriots. Earlier during the season, but I'll get into that later, I don't think many of my colleagues were already calling him a wash-up. But I have mentioned this at least a gazillion times.
I'm sorry, is this Old Man Brady you're referring to?
Old Man Brady every day.
Yeah.
I mentioned this a gazillion times this season. And Bill Belichick tried to figure out the offensive line. He's got two rookies in center Stork and offensive tackle Cameron Fleming. Belichick got a lot of flack at the beginning of the season because he traded Logan Mankins to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 10 years, all pro, but high salary, typical Belichick. And picked up, ironically enough, Timothy Wright, which I'll get into in a minute. Tom Brady's numbers are up this past week, and I'm the one person who's not surprised. Like I said, if you got a good offensive line, I think I could throw three touchdowns for the Patriots if I got enough time to sit there behind the line and throw this. I am not surprised one bit. My colleagues here themselves, Philly Chris, counted him out, and I do believe Katie also counted this guy out. It started, since week 4 it was an absolute shellacking by the Kansas City Chiefs. Since then, Brady has completed 100 of 144 attempts. He's looking at almost 1,300 yards with 14 touchdowns, but most importantly, 0 interceptions, which probably is suggesting he's not quite washed up after all, is he? And I'm going to kind of make that slip in a bold prediction at this time. He's got, you know the game, Gronk, paper, scissors, touchdown. He's got Ron Gronkowski, and this guy is a beast. I'm going a little out on a limb, making a bold prediction here, ladies and gentlemen, but I do see him either tying or surpassing his NFL record of 17 touchdowns in a season, which he accomplished in 2011. This guy is 2 meters. That's 6'6" in Fahrenheit.
In Fahrenheit.
He towers over most defenders. And as we saw last Sunday, the guy manhandles safeties, throws them out of the way like rag dolls. So, and he's also, I think, the J.J. Watt of the offensive side of the ball right now. And he is I think he's the actual official wrecking ball of the NFL this week, or
Anybody else?
Anybody want to oppose that bold prediction that he had there?
I will oppose that bold prediction. One, for using far too many nicknames for the man. He can't be Gronk, paper, scissors, and the wrecking. He is now the Miley Cyrus of the NFL. I don't know.
Yes.
Just kidding. But okay, the man The man is of formidable size. I'll give you that. He plays well on and off. He had 3 touchdowns this week. Is he on par to really get 10 more by the end of the season? I find that questionable. However, the point of a bold prediction is that it's bold.
To be bold.
So
sure.
I'm going to oppose, but if you end up being right, I'll bake you that lasagna, I promise, 3 weeks.
We'll have to buy another freezer to start storing all this lasagna.
All right. Chris, what do you have for us this week?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of bad news within the New York Jets organization, and a lot of that hammers coming down to Geno Smith, or as we've said, the Geno Smith experience.
Yes.
I do lefty for that on the Jimi Hendrix side of things. So the question is this really the end of the Geno Smith experience? And I don't maybe go quite that far, because we're bringing in Michael Vick now. Vick has been injury prone ever since his stellar 2010 season with the Philadelphia Eagles. He barely can stay healthy enough. His wheels aren't running as fast as they used to. Interceptions are kind of going up. So whether or not he can actually stay healthy is going to be a big key driver as to whether or not it's really the end or not. I think he's going to probably not make it the entire way throughout the season. I think you're going to see Geno Smith back. But let's talk a little bit more importantly. Whether or not Geno Smith plays a few more games this season for the New York Jets or not is a little bit secondary to what really is his future with the New York Jets and what really is the Jets' future. So from my side of things, if you take a look at it, he's been there now for 1.5 seasons. If we extrapolate those numbers out to 2 seasons, he's going to average, or he's going to have a total of 26 touchdowns to 41 interceptions. I mean, that's almost a 1 touchdown to 2 interception ratio. And his quarterback rating is 66%. So my question is whether or not even whether or not he's going to be at the New York Jets side of things, but whether or not he's going to have a place in the NFL moving forward. Back up somewhere possibly. Of course, sometimes you can get in. But I'm a little concerned as to whether or not his days, not only in New York, are limited, but really in the NFL as far as a legitimate football player. The thing is that they're 8-8 this year and they're 1-7 this year, and it's not even just what's going to happen with Geno Smith, but really what's going to happen with the New York Jets in general. You have Rex Ryan. He's had a lot of flack in the last couple of years. GM John Idzik, also some flack here. He was actually one of the driving forces as to picking up Geno Smith in the draft. Rex Ryan, although not very vocally, he didn't agree with that pick. And they've been having a lot of quarterback troubles over the time. And this is a franchise that has traditionally been second ranked in New York City to the Giants. But if you take a look at the last 10 years between 2001 and 2010, these guys had made the playoffs 6 times. They're really kind of on the up and up. And in 2011, they were 11-5. So when you think about the fact that there was even probably a chance to really turn that tide, getting them at the forefront of New York football versus the Giants, there's a lot of disappointments there. So the question for me is really, where do they go from here? What is going to be the solution from the quarterback side of things? You really need that at a franchise level. Do they go to the draft? Do they try to pick up somebody else? Drafts tends to be pretty risky if you think about it, whether it's him, or if you take a look at the last 5 to 10 years, Jake Locker, 8th overall in 2011 by the Tennessee Titans.
Say that 3 times.
Exactly. You have Christian Ponder, 12th overall by Minnesota in 2011, and the list goes on. Jamarcus Russell, number 1 in 2007 by Oakland. Matt Leinart, number 10 overall in 2006 by Arizona. And even if you take a look at what they did in Washington with RG3, they gave up a lot of good picks for them, 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick in the next three years. And the guy's not playing, he's hurt. So there's a lot of risk associated with trying to pick somebody up in the draft. These guys are really wheeling. I'm concerned about the New York Jets. I was a lot of passion for them as they were kind of maybe taking over the Giants. Anyway, my bold prediction on this topic is the fact that they can both GM and coach at the end of the season. So they're going to completely rebuild this organization, and I think they should. I think they should think about rebuilding the players and also the front office.
I'm going to oppose your bold prediction there, Chris. Not that I think there's going to be a lot of changes there, and I do think they'll get rid of Rex Ryan, but it's only the second year for GM John Idzik.
Yep.
And generally, GMs are allowed at least one head coach hire before you really evaluate him, and it would really be bucking a trend to get rid of the GM that quickly when he hasn't even had a
Stranger things
chance
have happened.
to put in his guy yet. Of course, yeah, it's not going to blow me away, but I think we'll see at least another year or two from Idzik. Although I don't necessarily see them being productive years. So
Owner Woody Johnson's got a lot of really painful decisions to make at the end of this year for the Jets. Really.
True. Katie, what do you got for us?
My turbulent AFC North, and it's anybody's game. Seriously, this week showed us a lot of things about a rising Baltimore team, a falling Baltimore team, a Pittsburgh team dominating, and I've supported the Bengals before as an Ohio pick, and they looked better this week, coming back to win against the Baltimore Ravens, and this was really a tit-for-tat game. As we saw, the stats, if you look at quarterback stats, rushing stats, passing stats, are almost even 1-to-1, and it just came out who was able to come through in the finish. Often when a team does poorly, your quarterback takes the blame. This week you get to see the quarterback as the hero, the captain, the leader, and Andy Dalton scoring the first touchdown, a quarterback sneak, and the last touchdown, the ultimate winning touchdown, really unifying his team despite the fact that he threw an interception and fumbled the ball in the fourth quarter. Things were looking horrifyingly bad for the Bengals, and he managed to brush his shoulders off and rally. I think the Bengals have a lot of heart behind them, and maybe anything can happen right now in the AFC North.
Sure.
So they're back on top. With that
Yeah.
win, they're back on top. My Browns plummeted to 4th despite winning, but it's game for game in this division, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it comes down to, or what it comes down to in the end.
And they now got the tiebreaker then over Baltimore,
Correct.
no matter what, basically. So
Correct.
that's another
We
huge
said that
portion of that.
That
yeah.
game would play a significant role later in the season, and I think the further we go down the line, the more we watch the AFC North, it will play a role.
It's a strange season for the AFC North this year. I mean, how could Pittsburgh Steelers go in and lose to the hapless Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then follow it up a week or so later and absolutely crush a Super Bowl contender, Indianapolis Colts? It's just
blaming
one
it-
of those. People call it a parody or something like that. I call it like almost incomprehensible. It's the strangest thing.
You can see all
right
4
now.
teams ending at like 8-8.
Yeah.
Some crazy tiebreaker.
Yeah,
scenario
but there's
where
going to be a
it's-
10-6 team, or maybe 2 at the end of this season, sitting there at home during the playoffs, watching it from the sofa. It's
I'm
just
calling
a really
it-
strange season.
I'm calling Pittsburgh's win based 60% on those uniforms. They were so distracting.
They were amazing.
Those- yeah, I really don't
The
like
Killer
it.
Bees.
I'm
They're
so
Yeah,
sad.
you know, it's a division like this that kind of underscores when you got something like the Broncos playing. Understand?
Yeah.
There you got certainty, and then you
Yeah.
look at the rest of the league.
Okay. My discussion point this week is another big offensive output, but I'm kind of looking at it from the other standpoint. We've mentioned kind of skirted around the Steelers and the Colts here a couple of times. I'm going to talk a little more directly about it. The Colts defense just was absolutely shredded this weekend, and not by the prolific passing attack that you would expect. I mean, if Green Bay had come in there and put up these points on them, if Denver had put up these touchdowns, New Orleans, one of the teams that you expect to do it, but when Big Ben Roethlisberger, great quarterback as far as winning goes, but generally considered to be more of a game manager, more of a 250 yards, couple of touchdown kind of guy. When
He's
he
a Hall of
comes in,
Famer. He's a Hall of Famer.
when he comes in and puts up 522 yards and 6 touchdowns
Yeah.
on you, there is something wrong with your defense. And this is even in a day and age where all of the defenses look a little suspect. These guys now have gone from a little suspect to how can you possibly trust that defense come playoff time? And I mean, before this game, the Colts, I guess, going back to the start of the year, they had some problems in the first couple of games. Their outside linebacker, All-Pro Robert Mathis, was hurt, and they were down a little bit, but then they seemed to come together. They put together a pass rush. They'd gotten a couple of games where they had kept the opponents down, and they were looking like they turned a corner. But now, even though statistically they're still kind of in the middle of the pack in the NFL, I just, as a Colts fan, would have absolutely no faith in this defense really from here on out. I don't see how you could. You could see 2 or 3 good games and then once again have somebody just explode all over the place. So going to be really interesting to me to see how this plays out on really the rest of their season and their dynamics within the team.
You know, interesting from my side of things in that football game was even though the Pittsburgh Steelers put up 51 points in that football game, the fact that the Indianapolis Colts actually had a somewhat reasonable chance to actually take that game and win that football game was absolutely amazing.
It is.
They looked absolutely horrific as stated on defense. Andrew Luck falls down at the end of the game. I mean, if it weren't for that little fall back into the end zone and having the safety there, maybe driving the football there, they actually still had a chance. I don't know, from my side of things, yeah, it's absolutely horrific to think about the fact that you were putting those types of numbers up against you. I'm hoping it's an aberration. Maybe I'm wrong. I still have my confidence in the Indianapolis Colts to take it through and be that competition against the Denver Broncos to get into the Super Bowl.
You can't, I mean, if all you can do is put up points and you can't stop points being put up against you, you're going to wear your offense out so quickly
Yeah, no doubt.
that, I mean, they've got weapons, but not enough to sustain that kind of scoring.
Hopefully it's a one, at least for them, hopefully it's a one.
Hopefully
I agree.
it's a
I
one-off.
like Indianapolis. I hope that they can come back.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up the first half here and come back in the second half with some discussions of last week's picks, discussions of next week's picks, the usual. We'll see you in a few. Bye-bye. And we're back. Second half of the show for you coming up. Gonna talk first real quick about last week's games and
Ouch.
picks. We had Baltimore, Cincinnati. We had of course, our co-host Mark was in here with us too, so I'll mention how he did as well. Joel and Mark picked Cincinnati to win. They ultimately took the game. We had Philadelphia at Arizona, where everyone... Nope, I take it back. Sorry. Mark and Chris both took Philly to win. They were on the losing side of that one.
Yeah, we knew.
Seattle at Carolina. We had just two dissenters. Again, it was Mark and Chris went for the Panthers to win that one.
It was close.
Didn't happen. Close game. You know, what are you going to do?
Horseshoes and hand grenades, my
It is,
friend.
yeah.
It's the only time it counts to be close.
Green Bay at New Orleans. The only two people to pick Green Bay were Katie and Dave, actually. So 3 times for New Orleans, who actually took the game. And the only person to pick Pittsburgh correctly was Mark, who's not here to enjoy the win, but he did well with that one. So on the week, I came in on top at 4-1, Mark at 3-2, Katie at 2-3, Dave also 2-3, and Philly Chris relinquishing some of that early lead
Well,
at 1-4.
just letting you guys
Make it
Wait,
more
catch
interesting.
lull you back in a little.
Appreciate
Much
that.
like the NFL itself right now, we're
Yeah.
all over the
Yeah.
map.
Exactly. So now, talking up this week's games, once again we'll let Dave kick it off with Denver, New England.
Boy, this is what we stay up for, isn't it, guys? And Katie, I mean, this is like one of the games of the season. This is almost like AFC Championship game going on right now.
It's a big one.
Speaking about the Colts, just in the last segment, Bill Belichick actually owns Peyton Manning. He's got a 10 out of 10 wins and 5 losses against Peyton Manning. We saw last week when you protect my man.
Tom
Tom
Brady?
Brady.
Tom Brady, thank you. I was going to say Jimmy
Old
G.
man
Sure.
Tom
When you help my man Tom Brady there and you give the guy time, he's going to burn you. He has the luxury this week. Last week you saw them work in Timothy Wright, the tight end they picked up off the trade from Mankins, the offensive tackle I mentioned earlier. Now you've got another decent tight end, healthy, very fast, playing with you. Who's going to guard Gronkowski? They do have their problems in the secondary in Denver. Patriots a little susceptible against the run, but they do have the second stingiest pass defense in the NFL right now.
Yeah, that may
enough.
not be true after this week, but
We'll see. No, and Belichick's secret to winning this game, he goes, well, how do you do it? He says, well, I keep Peyton off the field.
Hey,
He keeps
I'm
Peyton
hoping it
off
works.
the field.
Yes.
I got the Patriots. This is one of these games. You got to take an app and watch because it's going to be a high-scoring game, I think. I think it'll come down to ball possession. If the Broncos win, I'm not going to be surprised at all. I think the Patriots really can lose this one and still be in the driver's seat in their division, but I got the Patriots winning this one, a
Patriots to
close
win.
one. Yeah.
Chris?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, I think there's a lot of high-power offensive weapons that Peyton Manning has in the Denver Broncos. That being said,
Yes.
to steal Dave's line, I mean my own line, Gronk, paper, scissors, touchdown,
Yes.
New England at home.
Good call.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play the voice of dissent. It's
Yeah.
veteran quarterback against veteran quarterback. I say that Manning pulls it out. I pick it close, but I pick Denver. Sorry.
Broncos go down in flames. New England win. Okay, next game we got Katie talking about Baltimore at Pittsburgh. But we've been dancing around these two teams all afternoon, it seems.
Goodness gracious. As we said before, I don't need to reread the stats, Roethlisberger's stats that were just mind-boggling for Roethlisberger as a quarterback, a very good quarterback, but nonetheless not the kind of numbers he usually puts up. And I highly doubt he'll be able to do that again against Baltimore. Excuse me. Can Baltimore break out of its slump playing away? They've been very bad on the road. They've just come off a loss, being swept by Cincinnati, which hasn't happened since 2009. I don't know. This game, ultimately, because I hate these teams both with a vehement passion, I don't wish for natural disaster, but at least a 0-0 tie, since that's now feasible. a terrible game to watch as a spectator, but as a Browns fan, I would not mind at all. Nonetheless, I say Baltimore's going to exact revenge for losing 26-6 at the beginning of the season. They're going to come back and beat them in a tough Heinz Field Stadium. That's your late game on Sunday. I don't know if I'll make it up for it. I'll wake up in the morning to be disappointed either way that it goes. But I say that Baltimore's going to exact revenge, bounce back.
For me, this is like a coin flip. I can't call Pittsburgh games. In fact, it's stupid to put them on here because I'm going to get it wrong no matter what I do. Pittsburgh's at home, so I'm going to take them to win 2 in a row. I know it's crazy. 2 in a row from the Steelers, but that's what I'm saying.
You know, I wanted to say something in Katie's last segment, and Katie's picking Cincinnati on the rise. I actually kind of disagree with that. I see this Pittsburgh Steelers showed something last week, believe it or not. I think they're actually the team to watch in that division. That Pittsburgh wins this easily, maybe by a touchdown.
They did lose to the Browns.
Yeah, listen, I think there's going to be a little bit of hangover from all those touchdowns and the points that they scored last week. I mean, at the same time, there's a lot of momentum that's going on that they have. They're playing at home. I like the Steelers in this matchup.
Okay. Well, next then we'll let you give your take on Philly at Houston.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really important game for both teams. The Eagles are 5-2. They're a half a game behind Dallas in the lead of the NFC East. And Houston's 4-4, so they're kind of lurking there in the AFC South. If we take a look at maybe what was happening last week, maybe more people were not as amped about that because of the fact that the Colts were playing so well. But anyway, I think it's a really, really good game this week. And if you take a look at what both these teams have moving forward, Eagles have 2 games against Dallas, and out of the conference they have Green Bay, Seattle, and Carolina. Okay, Carolina may be a little shaky, but they still have that, that solid defense that could go in there. From the Houston side of things, they have 3 cupcakes moving forward. They have Jacksonville twice, they have Tennessee once, which brings them up to 7 wins actually. So the rest of their schedule is going to be really important. I think they're going to play the rest of those games really hard. I think they're going to put up a decent challenge against Philadelphia this week. To me, this game comes down to a lot of the turnovers. The Philadelphia Eagles have given the ball away 17 times this year. That's only 1 less than Jacksonville for the most in the season.
Okay.
Houston has 17 forced turnovers, which is 1 less than the Buffalo Bills for the most in the NFL.
You're convincing me.
So there's
interesting stat.
It's a really, but at the same time, I mean, listen, the Eagles are also forcing a lot of turnovers as well, so they have 10 forced turnovers as well. It's going to be a tough game. I think what we're going to end up seeing here at the end is Eagles, calm down a little bit. They relax after the major defeat that they had last week with a major bomb at the end of the season to lose that game. From a quarterback side of things, you got Ryan Fitzpatrick leading, not really solidly leading, but leading the Houston Texans. And at the end of the game, I think the Eagles rebound after a tough loss against Arizona, and they take the win.
I agree with you. I think the Eagles really need to win this game. They got to keep pace with the Cowboys right now. I'm not so optimistic about the Texans as you seem to be. Jacksonville can take one of those games any given Sunday. But I think the Eagles have a little bit more on the offensive side. I know they got J.J. Watt's going to be putting pressure on all day long, but I think the Eagles will take this win.
I think it's unwise to call any game a cupcake game in this season because I did it once and ate my words and watched my Browns just completely choke to a team they could have beaten easily. I'm hesitant to say anybody can't beat anybody or be beaten by anybody on any given week this year, but I still will side with you both and take the Eagles to win.
See, I really want to go against you guys, but I've learned my lesson as far as that goes and changing your mind at the last minute. So I'm going to stick with Philadelphia, although, gosh, you made a really compelling argument with all the turnovers. And, for me, one thing that makes me a little hesitant to go with the home upset, if you would, or the home team winning, is that once again, Arian Foster is questionable as the week goes on. If you know he's out there for sure, and not only out there, but 100% and really able to just pound the ball, tote the rock, if you would, then that really improves their chances. But with him a little iffy or still kind of just favoring the leg, then yeah, we'll give it to Philly. But it might be a closer game than anybody expects. Look at that.
We're seeing special teams coming into play.
Yo.
Yeah, there's a lot of specialness going on.
All right. Final game of the week. I'm gonna talk it through here real quick. Another good matchup: Arizona at Dallas, and this is one of those games that really could decide things when it comes to playoff time. Tiebreakers, home field advantage. You know, you get down to the point where you see teams that have got so many wins. Between the two of them, they've got 12 wins and only 3 losses. It's crazy, but it's true, and that's where we're at in the season. We're at the point where the numbers just begin to be the numbers, and so here we go. This lost a little bit of its luster after Dallas's magical home loss on Monday night to the Washington Redskins. But, you know, serious postseason implications. And, of course, at this point, the huge question mark, is Tony going to play? And if so, is he going to play the whole game? He went out with an injury last week. That is one of those things where they actually, you know, they came in and they took him off and they stabilized him, and it looked like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the season for him. Then he's back and he's not so bad. And now at this point, you've got owner Jerry Jones dropping tweets that say, hey, if he's a man, he's going to get out there and play. He's not, you know, medical. There's nothing medical that's going to stop him from playing, which, you know, implies that it's all about, you know, pain in his head or something. Who knows?
Tough breakup.
Yeah, a tough breakup. I don't know. Is he still dating that Simpson girl?
No, she's married to a hockey player.
Okay, so yeah, who knows with Tony,
Gossip for
but
the week.
you know, despite all the question marks, I'm going to go with Dallas rebounding and winning this game, handing Arizona just their second loss of the season.
You know, I'd like to join you on that. You know, but when Tony whines, the team whines. And we've seen this in the past. It's November on Sunday, isn't it?
It
Isn't
is.
that choke time for the Cowboys? I
It's
just
December,
think packagely, defensively, the Cardinals are going to put a lot of pressure on Romo. I think if he gets hit a couple times, you're going to see it. Dallas needs to win this game to keep ahead of your boys there in Philadelphia, but I see the Cardinals winning
Of
this
course, they need to lose if they want to get back to 8-8.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, I think-
Stay in your comfort zone here.
But I see the Cardinals coming in and winning this game, so San Francisco and Seattle really start taking notice in that division.
Yeah, no, from my side of things, obviously Tony Romo questionable at this time, and Jerry Jones, the whole notion of him driving that team and personnel and that type of thing is absolutely insane. I mean, this guy's turning into the Oakland. Anyway,
Yeah.
The point I guess is that from my side of things, I'm going to take it in the fence that he is playing this football game. He's going to be healthy enough to go ahead and play in the football game, and at the same time, they're going to lose to a solid Arizona team who took down Eagles last week.
I'm also sticking with Arizona for the same reasons you said. A questionable Romo is a questionable Dallas, and as long as he's not 100%, it takes a couple bad hits, a couple false moves, and he's out again. Despite his burst of
Yes,
effort
sure.
from Jerry Jones.
And I mean, you know, they've got Jacksonville next week and a bye after that. So, I mean, if there's any question, they may just hold him back and see if they
Good
can
point.
beat the
Good point,
cupcake
Joel.
without him. Who knows? We'll see. All right. That's about it. We're going to wrap it up. And thanks once again for joining us on Touchdown. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. So.